especially since Trump's win. But even before that, we've seen some well-known figures on the left move to the right. Now, although in basically every case, they'll deny that they're moving to the right. Instead, they'll say something like, the left left me, which always turns out to be at most only partially true, but also partially their way of not having to actually admit that they were wrong about something. So you probably remember Mika and Joe on Morning Joe solemnly explaining their decision to go to Mar-a-Lago and meet with Donald Trump. They said that they agreed to restart communications with Trump and find common ground in order to heal our national divides and put an end to political warfare. Watch.
Before we go to that clip of Mika and Joe, we're going to see Matt Walsh go as hardcore as Matt Walsh does on other streamers. He's above this, but these two have gotten on his last nerves. He's going to go Laura Loomer on Cenk and Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks. And anyone else, including Joe and Mika, it applies to. Let's watch Matt Walsh go hardcore on the Young Turks, Joe and Mika, Anna Kasparian, Cenk Uygur, anybody who's a left person who kind of fakes this unity idea, this joke of a unity. He's going to go hardcore on them. Let's take a look.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed. That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was tearful, he was upbeat, he seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And
I don't like that about Donald Trump. I don't like that. People might think it's an admirable trait for someone to take a little shaving off of their ear and to still warm up to the same people who couldn't care less. It's not admirable to me. If you want to work on something, work on something. I don't like this. We want to find common ground. No, I don't. I have my goals. You have your goals. Let's make a deal. That's Donald Trump. Art of the deal. I don't want to hear unity or common ground. Donald Trump grew up in this lifestyle. He still wants their admiration. And what they want to do, Joe and Mika, I'm going to go back to Matt Walsh here in a second, but what they want to do is figure out what didn't work. Their propaganda, dividing from him, cutting him off. They thought it would work because they were the kingmakers. No, nobody watches them anymore. I'm doing a react to Matt Walsh, not to them. Let's get back to Matt Walsh getting in on, he'll get in on Cenk. Don't worry about that.
Just asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us. I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote.
That was a sleight of hand there. Not only that, it was stronger than that. They didn't believe you. It wasn't that they cared about that more than the arrests. They didn't believe the arrests. They didn't believe the civil cases. They don't trust you anymore. That's what it really comes down to, Mika.
Joe and I realize it's time to do something different. And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
So they talk about this meeting as if it was Lee and Grant at Appomattox or something. In reality, it doesn't actually matter whether Morning Joe gets along with Trump or not.
I agree. And it's just weird that they're reading a script for that. Just have bullet points. I know you have teleprompters and you're used to reading. But remember when Trump referred to Mika as Crazy Mika and Psycho Joe? Donald Trump said Mika Brzezinski was bleeding badly from a facelift when he saw her at Mar-a-Lago. He basically said your face was falling off your face. He called their show poorly rated. Yeah, maybe that's why you wouldn't meet with them. You can if you want, but you're reading off a script, it doesn't come across as something I should really even care about. Let's get back to Matt Walsh. He's going to drink some leftist tears here in a second from Cenk and Anna.
Have zero impact on the country either way. But in any case, before, that was still them sort of moderating a bit. And before Morning Joe's big kumbaya moment, there were other examples of this sort of thing. Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks had been making the rounds for months, criticizing the left for its excesses. Of course, somebody like Bill Maher has been doing the same thing for much longer. And there are several other examples of this kind of thing. And these are all different people and different cases that shouldn't necessarily all be thrown into the same basket. But I do have some concerns about this now familiar routine of leftists seeing the light, or sort of seeing it, and then being immediately embraced by many on the right, even celebrated and amplified as voices of reason. And I think the best way to explain my concerns is to point to another one of these newly minted voices of reason. This one also comes to us courtesy of the Young Turks. In fact, it is the creator of the show, Cenk Uygur. Now, Cenk has been a passionate, some would say vicious, unhinged, hysterical critic of Trump and MAGA and conservatives generally for many, many years. And yet, 2 weeks ago, he tweeted that he is now somehow feeling optimistic after the guy he despised and the movement he has opposed with his whole heart and soul just won. He wrote, quote, "I've been trying to figure out why I'm more optimistic now than I was before the election, even though I was so against the guy who won. I know now. MAGA is not my mortal enemy, and neither is the extreme left. My mortal enemy is the establishment, and they have been defeated." Now, despite being a far-left commentator who has demonized conservatives for literally decades, he now says that MAGA is not his enemy. The establishment is his enemy. In other tweets and comments, he's called for unity between the two sides. He's criticized the extreme left, or as he now apparently calls them, the max left, and has assured us that if the folks on both sides can unite against the villainous establishment, we will be invincible. Last week, he appeared on the PBD podcast to explain this new approach, which he won't really admit is a new approach, but even so, here you go.
They're all over the map. Here's Cenk on it. Give the channel, this is After Show Carnage. We break down some of the best political commentary debates out there, and we talk about it, and we debate it here on this channel. After Show Carnage. Let's get into Cenk. How do you pronounce his name? Is it Cenk? Is it Cenk? Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks.
Here's what my left-wing friends don't understand. They think you guys are all MAGA, and MAGA means it's a cult, and you're never going to disagree with Trump. You're never going to disagree with each other, and that you are like their father's Republicans. But you're not their father's Republicans.
No, they're not the father's Republicans, but they don't disagree with Trump. That's for sure. It is. I will call it a cult.
And so our side, I've been trying to get them to realize that Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, all these folks that take the money, they're not on your side. They're on the establishment side, right? And guys, today, I think that, we could do something historic. I think that we could actually unite the left flank and the right flank. And I've got a model for how to do that. And I want to run it by you guys. Before, when I battled the right wing, it was a wall, right? I'm just like, nobody's listening to one another. They're just doing talking points. I hated it. And then MAGA looked like they were 100%. I'll be honest. I mean, in 2020, I was super pissed. And I said, look, I don't want to talk to Trump supporters. All I hear is the same thing. Trump, 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 Trump. And they never waver. So what I'm saying to the left now is, no, I'm seeing something new and different here. The MAGA base has changed. Okay. That doesn't mean they don't like Trump. It doesn't mean that they're not right wing, but there is a significant portion of the MAGA base now that is, in my opinion, right wing populists who are actually anti-establishment, actually anti-corruption, actually anti-war. And what I'm trying to tell the left is take the win. Take the win. We've been standing opposed here for 20 years, trying to cut the Pentagon, trying to be anti-war, getting money out of politics. If people say yes, for God's sake, that's our lost tribe. Those are our right-wing brother and sisters who are Americans, who are populists, who agree with us. Let's go fight the establishment together, because if we're united, they cannot stop us.
I don't understand what he's saying. I don't even think MAGA's against the establishment, because the establishment is where his boss, the allegiance of Matt Walsh's boss is where the establishment is. Matt Walsh isn't against the establishment. Trump certainly isn't against the establishment. But let's go back to Matt Walsh getting in on Cenk. Matt, look at Matt's eyes. He can't wait to get in on the Young Turks.
Brothers and sisters. Very nice sentiment. Cenk says that he has a plan. In fact, he said in the interview he had a plan to unite us all. He's all about unity. And he says that the MAGA base has changed. Now it is actually anti-establishment, anti-corruption, and anti-war. But, there are some rather significant problems here. And the first and most obvious is that the MAGA base has always been anti-establishment, anti-corruption, and anti-war. Those have been, by far, the defining features of the base from day one. But Cenk pretends that this was only a recent development so that, again, he can avoid actually admitting that he was wrong.
Yep, I agree.
In fact, he goes further. He takes.
I don't think MAGA's anti-establishment, but let's just say that they are. Matt Walsh is absolutely right. We have to ignore that country sometime. Let's go forward for right now, ignoring that country. Matt Walsh is right.
Credit. He pretends that the MAGA base has come to him, that this is a left-wing win, basically.
Yep.
Now, the other problem, and it's a big one, is that Cenk extends this olive branch to Trump's supporters and praises them for their stand against corruption and war. But here's what he was saying about Donald Trump as recently as last October.
He's a dictator. He's a fascist. That's not hyperbole. So, and here I'll upset a bunch of people on the left. Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley are not fascists. They're terrible people for other reasons, but they've never done a coup against America. They don't use direct Nazi quotes that Trump does. Wow. The only fascist that is an actual threat to democracy is Donald J. Trump. He already tried to end this democracy.
How does he use this threat to? That's the same talking point as MSNBC.
Once. And guys, last thing. The other day, he said, immigrants are poisoning the blood of our nation. That quote has only been used by Adolf Hitler and Donald J. Trump. So he's telling you ahead of time, I'm a Nazi. It's not like I didn't warn you. I used absurd Hitler quotes. I pulled them out of history and I said them for no reason, just to let you know I am a Nazi.
All right, by the way, that was an interview that...
So what is that? So how does he have that take and nobody calls him out for it? I don't understand that. So I have to go back. I did not listen to that PBD. Maybe that's another reaction. We'll check it out and see. But I need some more. I need to understand how you change positions. What does this mean? What does it mean that we unify to you? I don't even know what that word means. Let's finish off the Matt Walsh segment here and then we'll wrap it up.
Serious issues, but they won't admit it. At the very least, these are people who ignored and probably scoffed at and demeaned the conservatives who told them that the left was on a slippery slope into madness. They didn't listen. So at the very least, they were wrong about that. Mm-hmm. But they won't admit that either. And yet they show up and they have all their ideas and we're supposed to listen to them. And they even have the gumption to turn around to conservatives who have been in this movement forever and try to lecture them. And so I'll tell you how to really argue on these issues. What the hell do you know? You've been wrong about everything. You just started being sort of right about a few things 10 seconds ago. Maybe have some humility and shut up and listen for a few. You haven't listened at all your entire life. Maybe you should be listening now.
What do you think? Is Matt Walsh right? Does Cenk need to shut up and listen? He doesn't strike me as the type of guy to do that. This has been After Show Carnage. Matt Walsh, the carnage was all one-sided here. Matt Walsh laying it out. Cenk, if you want to do something, see if you can do a show with Matt Walsh, because I don't think he's in the mood to play games with you.